Have you ever felt that surge of anger about to take over? Your heart racing, sharp words ready to escape your lips, and a choice standing before you. Give in to the impulse or maintain control. Now, imagine an even more intense scenario. An entire army, led by a powerful man, marching toward you, ready to destroy everything you love. Your home, your family, your very life, all on the brink of being wiped out in mere minutes. That's exactly what happened to Abigail, a woman surrounded by chaos, facing a cruel fate brought upon her by someone else's pride and arrogance. But instead of panicking, she did something unexpected, something that changed history. With wisdom, courage, and a deep understanding of human nature, Abigail prevented a massacre. But how? What was the strategy that turned a moment of fury into an act of redemption? And most importantly, what can you learn from her story to handle conflicts in your own life? In today's video, you're going to discover the 4 steps Abigail used to calm a furious warrior and save her home, and how you can apply these lessons in your relationships, at work, and in any crisis situation. But before we continue, hit that like button. It helps us spread this powerful biblical wisdom to more people who need it. Abigail wasn't just a wise woman. She had something rare, something that isn't learned overnight, a skill that could have saved countless kings, rulers, and even ordinary families from destruction: emotional intelligence in moments of crisis. David wasn't just any man. He was a fierce warrior, battle-hardened, a leader feared and respected. When he decided to wipe out Nabal's household, there was no room for negotiation. The decision had been made. But then, standing before him, came Abigail, one woman against an entire army. No sword, no soldiers to protect her, just words and wisdom. Now, think about this. What would you do in her place? Would you face an enraged warrior, knowing that a single wrong word could seal the fate of your entire family? Or would you freeze, unsure of how to act? Most people react impulsively to conflict. They either attack or retreat, but rarely stop to think about a strategy. And that is exactly what made Abigail different. What she did wasn't just an apology. She followed an emotional strategy that can be applied to any crisis, whether at work, in relationships, or in moments of personal tension. And that's exactly what we're about to uncover today. Stay with me until the end, because you're going to discover the 4 steps Abigail used to turn a moment of imminent destruction into one of redemption. Steps that you can use to avoid unnecessary conflicts, influence the people around you, and even make wiser decisions under pressure. And the last step? Well, the last step might completely change how you see life's challenges. If you think you already know everything about this story, think again, because what comes next could transform the way you handle any conflict. Abigail's story doesn't begin with a heroic act. It begins with a problem big enough to lead to tragedy. Her husband, Nabal, was a powerful man, owner of vast lands and flocks, but there was something about him that made disaster inevitable. He was arrogant, reckless, and utterly foolish. Now, imagine the context. David and his men were in the wilderness, fleeing from Saul. For a long time, they had protected Nabal's shepherds, ensuring that no harm came to them. So when David found himself in need, he sent some of his men to Nabal to request provisions. It was a fair request, something that any reasonable man would have honored out of gratitude. But Nabal, he didn't just refuse. He insulted David. He mocked him publicly, calling him insignificant, belittling his position. David was no ordinary man. He had faced lions, bears, giants, and now, a mere wealthy landowner dared to challenge him? His blood boiled. Anger consumed him. David drew his sword and marched with his men, determined to destroy everything and everyone in Nabal's household. Now, stop for a moment and think. How many times has someone's pride ruined everything? Have you ever witnessed someone throw away an opportunity just because they spoke without thinking? How many times have careless words caused irreversible damage? And who suffers most in these situations? It's not always the one who caused the problem. Abigail had done nothing wrong. She had no part in her husband's arrogance. Yet, her entire household was about to be wiped out. And it's in moments like these that a person's true greatness is revealed. She could have chosen to panic, to freeze in fear. She could have played the victim, complaining about the injustice of it all. But she didn't. She made a decision. Abigail understood something that few people ever grasp. Even in chaos, there's always a chance to change the outcome. She knew there was no point in trying to convince Nabal. He was a fool, blinded by his own arrogance. So instead, she took control of the situation. Without wasting time, Abigail prepared a generous offering: bread, wine, meat, grain, dried figs, everything David and his men needed. But she didn't send a servant to handle this for her. She went herself to meet David. Now think about this. What makes someone stand in the path of an enraged army? What gives a person the courage to look danger in the eye and say, "I have to act"? It wasn't just bravery. It was emotional intelligence. Abigail knew there was a way to rewrite this story. But how exactly did she do it? How did a single woman manage to stop an army on a path of destruction? That's what we're about to uncover next. Now, think with me. What would you do in this situation? You're standing before a furious warrior, a man who has already made up his mind. Your family is in danger. Your home is about to be destroyed. There is no time to carefully plan your next move. Every second that passes could be your last. Most people, when faced with conflict, react on impulse. Some lash out in anger, try to fight back against the situation, even if it only makes things worse. Others run away, avoiding confrontation, hoping the problem will resolve itself. But is there a third option? A way to act that is neither aggression nor retreat, but a strategy that truly changes the course of events? Abigail teaches us that emotional intelligence can be more powerful than brute force. She didn't panic, she didn't attack, and she didn't beg. Instead, she used wisdom to disarm a man who had already decided to destroy everything in his path. And now, let me ask you, how many opportunities have you lost because you reacted the wrong way? How many unnecessary arguments could have been avoided if, instead of exploding in anger or staying silent, you had used the right words? What you're about to see can completely change the way you handle challenges. It can teach you how to control your emotions and turn any crisis into an opportunity. So if this story is already making you think, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you won't miss any more powerful biblical lessons like this one. And share this video with someone who needs to learn how to handle conflicts better. Abigail didn't wait for the storm to arrive. She took action before it was too late. When she heard that David was marching with his men, ready to destroy her household, she didn't waste time complaining about Nabal's mistake, nor did she let fear paralyze her. She acted. She prepared a generous offering of bread, wine, meat, and dried figs, and immediately set out to meet David. And this is where we learn from Abigail. Every decision she made reveals a powerful principle of emotional intelligence, small but crucial details that, when applied at the right moment, can completely change the course of any situation. Step 1. Quick action without procrastination. How many times have you seen a problem grow right before your eyes? And instead of taking action, you waited until things got worse. Many people prefer to ignore danger until it becomes uncontrollable. But Abigail knew time was her enemy. If she hesitated for even a moment longer, David would have already crossed through the gates. She didn't stop to lament, didn't waste time in indignation. She decided to act. And you? When you see a conflict approaching, do you face it head on, or do you wait for the worst to happen? Step 2. Humility and empathy in conflict resolution. But acting alone wasn't enough. Abigail couldn't simply demand that David stop. She had no authority over him. So, when she finally reached him, She didn't try to defend herself, didn't place blame, didn't justify anything. Instead, she put herself in David's shoes. She recognized his fury. She understood his frustration. And rather than confronting him as an adversary, she positioned herself as an ally. Now think about this. How many arguments in your life could have been avoided if, instead of reacting impulsively, you had tried to understand the other side? Most people don't want an opponent. They just want to be heard. And you? When you face a problem, do you react with pride? Or do you try to see the situation through the other person's eyes? Step 3. Using words to calm and transform the situation. The turning point in this story came through words. Abigail could have begged desperately. She could have used empty arguments. But she didn't. She spoke with wisdom. She reminded David of who he really was. Not just a warrior thirsty for revenge, but a man chosen by God. David, consumed by rage, could only see Nabal's insult. But Abigail made him look beyond his anger. She reminded him of his true purpose, awakening his awareness that a future king should not stain his hands with unnecessary bloodshed. And now, let me ask you, do you use your words to calm situations, or do you add fuel to the fire? Sometimes, one single sentence can prevent disaster, but this requires self-control. It requires vision. Abigail understood that David's battle wasn't against her or even against Nabal. It was against his own emotions. Step 4. Trust in God above all. None of this would have worked if Abigail had acted out of desperation alone. She didn't know how David would react. He could have ignored her. He could have ordered her execution right then and there. But she trusted that she was doing the right thing. Many times, fear paralyzes us. We know what we should do, but we hesitate, doubt, or avoid taking action. Abigail moved forward because she trusted that God was in control. And now, I ask you, when you face difficult moments, do you believe that God can guide your decisions? The result? David recognized her wisdom and abandoned the massacre. A single woman, without weapons, without soldiers, without physical strength, changed the course of history because she had courage, intelligence, and faith. But do you know what's even more incredible about this story? What happened to Abigail after that day? She returned home, knowing she had prevented a massacre. Her emotional intelligence had saved her family, but there was still something beyond her control. Her own husband, Nabal. When Abigail told him what had happened, Nabal didn't react at first. But the next morning, when he realized the danger he had been in because of his arrogance, his body collapsed. The Bible says that his heart died within him, and 10 days later, he passed away. Now think about this. Abigail didn't have to lift a sword. She didn't have to fight. She didn't have to take revenge. God delivered justice for her. And here comes the most unexpected twist. Shortly after this, David, the very man who had been ready to destroy her household, made a surprising request. He asked Abigail to marry him. From a woman threatened with death, living alongside a foolish and reckless man, Abigail became the wife of a king. This teaches us something powerful. When you act with wisdom and faith, God can take you to places you never imagined. Maybe you're facing a difficult situation right now, something that feels unfair, something completely out of your control. But if you do the right thing, if you trust in God's direction, He can turn any situation in your favor. If this story moved you, you will be amazed by other powerful lessons the Bible has to teach us. Our channel is filled with stories like this, stories that can transform the way you see your life and your challenges. So, subscribe now, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who needs this message. Here, every Bible story teaches you a principle that can change your future. Abigail's story is a powerful reminder that emotional intelligence isn't just about controlling emotions. It goes beyond that. It's about knowing when to act, how to act, and above all, trusting that God is in control. How many times in life do we let pride, anger, or fear push us away from opportunities, blessings, and paths that could have led us to a much better future? Today, you've learned 4 simple steps, but steps that can completely change the way you handle any conflict. Act quickly and don't wait for the worst to happen. Have humility and empathy, even when everything feels unfair. Use words wisely to calm a situation instead of making it worse. And above all, trust that God can turn any situation in your favor. Now, tell me, which of these steps do you feel you need to practice the most in your life? Write in the comments. I'd love to hear how this story impacted you. And listen, if this message made sense to you, imagine how much more you can learn from the stories in the Bible. Every character, every event carries a powerful lesson that can transform the way you think and act. So don't leave this video without subscribing to the channel. Turn on notifications and share this video with someone who needs this message. Here, every Bible story teaches you a principle that can change your future.